Chapter 2. Valerie Dustin Dermot settled into her seat and buckled on the lap strap. She heard the solid chunk of the door slamming and saw with satisfaction that there was practically nobody on the plane. That was good. She'd be able to take out 2 armrests and sleep all the way to Rome with luck. She would have a couple of drinks and then take a pill. She opened her bag and drew out a compact. Her eyes were still scratchy from the unshed tears, and her nose looked a trifle pink. She was sick at heart, but she was honestly relieved to be leaving Kenya again. This time it was final. As all her thoughts of Brian were final now. That was finished. They were both finished. She had never felt really divorced from him before. Now she felt utterly and completely divorced. She sighed as the huge, nearly empty plane trundled out towards the takeoff strip, jouncing slightly over the tarmac. Her instinct about leaving Kenya in 1953 had been right. If she had not left then, she would certainly be leaving now. As she knew, so many people who had bravely stayed out would be leaving now, with the government changing and the country coming inevitably into black hands. Oh. It was no longer a white man's country at all, no longer a place to live safely and happily with love and peace. She was glad she would not be there when they hanged that poor fellow, Pooley, in the next week or so. Somehow, as an English woman running away from Kenya back to the safety of London, she felt terribly guilty about hanging of Peter Pooley. She felt guilty about Pooley in the same sense that she felt guilty about a man her former husband, Brian Dermot, had become. As she felt guilty about Kenya, as she even felt guilty about herself. The plane was racing down the strip now, its jets blasting, and she gave another sharp, aching sigh of relief as the wheels came up with a bump, and the jet began its climb. She unsnapped the safety belt. Took off her jacket and laid it folded on the seat beside her for the stewardess to take. She was off now. Off and away, safely out of Kenya. She would never come home again, because home was no longer home. As Brian Dermot was no longer her husband. As Brian Dermot was no longer her man. She relaxed the seat control, crossed her legs, and let her mind travel backward as the jet hummed monotonously in the sky.